Ken Laird, Guy Junker, this is Trib Live Radio. Do you believe? The headline on the Trib Sports page here on Wednesday. In your professional opinion, Guy Junker, should Pirates fans be believing? 17 games over 500 right now, and Bob Nutting says he's in. Pirates owner talked to our Dan Kovacevic, and he's feeling it.
I don't think I can tell fans what they should believe, Ken, because now had the last 2 years not happened the way they did, I'd say, yeah, you got to believe. I think what you have to do if you're a Pirate fan and a baseball fan is enjoy the ride. You don't know where it's going. That's okay, but it's been great to this point. It's better earlier than it's been either the last 2 years, which means that even if if everyone's worried about a collapse, it would take an even more colossal one now. 17 games over 500, first time since the end of the 1992 season. From the very beginning of this year, I wasn't as worried about their pitching collapsing just because they've had more depth, and they've certainly proven that because they've needed it. I mean, 4 of the 5 starters that they came north with from spring training went down for some way, shape, or form or reason, and yet they've managed to survive. Deon has a great stat in there. What is it? Phil Nevin.
Phil Irwin.
Or Phil Irwin, Compton, and who's the third guy? Gilmar Gomez. They're 9-1 when those 3 guys start. So, I am somebody that believes that there's sometimes in sports there's a little bit of fate involved. It's not always the best team that wins, and I think right now there's a little magic in that clubhouse right now. This team is feeling it. Things are going their way. Is it going to happen the whole rest of the year? I'm convinced they're going to have a winning season, that they will win 82 games or more. I mean, I'll be stunned if they don't. If they were in another division, I'd even be more willing to go out and say I think they'll contend for a playoff spot. I just think the Cardinals and the Reds are so good, and if the big test will be, they have so many head-to-head games against those 2 teams, I think that'll decide whether they stay contenders in the division or not.
They're actually 2.5 games up on the Reds right now, with Cincinnati losing on Tuesday night. That magic, that luck, that karma, the last 2 years before those epic collapses, it seemed to be something significant going against them. 19 innings, Jerry Meals said safe. The beanball incident with McCutchen last year, not to mention another extra inning game. But you're right, this year they seem to, when Brandon Angis jacking 3-run homers in the second inning, they're coming back on the Angels in dramatic fashion as they hadn't done since 1969. 3 runs in the ninth, 3 more runs in extra innings. Those are the kind of things that make you believe in a little bit of that intangible.
4 more in extra innings.
Yeah. I mean,
and they needed every one of them.
Well, they did. And,
Well, I think, Ken, I think physically, I think this team is deeper. I think the bench is better, and I think the pitching is deeper than it has been the last couple years. You hope that there's a maturation, even with a guy like Andrew McCutchen, who's been an all-star, who's been a great player, a maturation that allows him to sustain a little better through September. You hope that Pedro Alvarez is coming around as a little better of an overall hitter, not just a power guy who occasionally gets a hold of one and hits it 480 feet. But I think when you have things like what happened the last 2 years, and they won't pin it on the 19-inning game, they won't pin it on the beaning, but you can sort of see it. You can sort of see how there are turning points. I don't think they'll allow stuff like that. I thought last week was a perfect chance for a collapse or at least a down period to start. This looked like a difficult road trip. Cincinnati, Anaheim. Anaheim's been an overall disappointment. They were playing very well when the Pirates got there. And when Grilli blows his first save of the season in a key game in Cincinnati, and then you're turning around and playing the next day where the pitching matchup maybe doesn't look like it's in your favor, they haven't lost since. So instead of a nasty thing kind of like, oh, no, here we go again, they've actually turned that around and have gone on their first 5-game winning streak of the year.
When you have a guy like Jeff Locke in the rotation pitching the way he is, another 7 innings, 2-earned run,
and he didn't have his good stuff.
No.
He said after the game he felt awful.
Yeah.
He just didn't
it was mostly a fastball night. He wasn't throwing much of his curveball and his change at all, as we've seen, but he still gets the job done, 7 innings. Can he sustain it? That's, kind of in and of itself, 2 years ago, the pitchers that hit a wall, he might be one of those. It may rest on Wandy Rodriguez and A.J. Burnett and their health in the second half, whether they can come back and get those anchors back in there.
And I wouldn't feel totally uncomfortable resting on those 2 guys. I would feel more comfortable if it depends on 2 veterans like that, especially ones that have spent some time on the DL that won't have the inning.
They got a vacation.
Total. They got a little vacation in the middle of the season.
It's like a Junker vacation, that month-long vacation.
Yeah. Especially with Burnett because it was a calf thing. There's nothing wrong with his arm. With Wandy, I'm still a little concerned. He had a little soreness after his bullpen session, so he's pushed back again. again. Another bullpen session, another rehab start, so we're at least a week away from him returning to the rotation. With Locke, I'm always suspicious of guys, not so much of the innings pitched or how long it would be able to sustain it in a year. I just want to see what teams do with him. They see him a second or maybe even a third time. And I'm not saying they're going to hit him, but he sort of has come out of nowhere. No one expected this. It was a job that was up for grabs. I don't want to say he won it by default. He just had the most consistent spring, but it wasn't like he had this tremendous spring and took that fifth rotation spot. So, I like what I see. How can you not? That ERA is tremendous. And on a night like last, I'm even more impressed on a night like last night where, as he admitted, he had to grind it out. He's throwing a lot of balls in the first inning, a lot of first pitch balls, and got into some trouble in the count and still managed to pitch a nice game.
As a fan, the summer of 2013 will be a grinder for you. Will it be the summer of belief or tragedies coming in trilogies? Stay tuned. Ken Laird, Guy Junker, TribLive.com.